Battle of the sequels, Terrifier 2 versus A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of Versus, where we pit two slasher movies against each other to decide which one is better. At the end of this video, I'll be giving my verdict as to which one I think is the better film, but first we have to talk about what the community ultimately decided for last week's episode, which was, of course, Scream 6 versus Halloween Kills. Over on Patreon, there was 5 votes total, with Scream 6 taking the lead at 80%. There were some similar results from our channel members. 76% of the votes went to Scream 6 there as well. I even said in last week's video I thought Scream 6 was the better movie, but I was not expecting a landslide victory like this. The comments on that video alone were overwhelmingly saying that Halloween Kills should have taken the dub. Some of y'all Halloween fans have got to step up, that's all I'm saying. Scream 6 gets another point on the board for the Scream franchise though, which is currently in the lead for the Versus series. The last time the Terrifier and Nightmare franchises went against each other, Nightmare on Elm Street took the dub. So what will happen this time? Let's find out. It's time for Terrifier 2 versus A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. Now, as always with Versus videos, we gotta start this off with the formality of a coin flip. Considering that Freddy Krueger turns into a big ol' nasty snake or worm, whatever in this film, I think I'm going to give tails to A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And here we go, it's up in the air. Oh, and what's it gonna be? It's tails! Widely considered the best Nightmare sequel, I've always found Dream Warriors to be a bit overrated. The goofy knob gets turned up all the way to 11 by the third act of this one that never turns down until the 7th entry. But the fantastical kills, iconic Freddy one-liners, and epic side characters make up for it. This is a really weird take on Dream Warriors, but I found this film to be the first ever requel. Just like modern day requels such as Halloween 2018 or Scream 2022, Dream Warriors brings back a fan favorite character from the past, or well, one of the only surviving characters from that first movie, to aid the younger cast in a brand new Freddy situation. The younger cast here is also children of the disgruntled parents that ended up killing Freddy Krueger before the events of the first movie. Another element that's very similar to modern day requels. I'll get off my soapbox after this last point, but Heather Langenkamp's Nancy Thompson also dies at the end of this one, very similar to how a lot of requels do it these days. They kill off those old characters from the past, giving them an emotional death. Rest in peace, Dewey Riley, and like everyone else who died in Halloween Kills. Unlike many of the Nightmare sequels, Dream Warriors actually has great characters played by great actors. Patricia Arquette plays Kristen, our brand new final girl. Think Allison to Laurie Strode in Halloween 2018, or Sam Carpenter to Sidney Prescott. There's this passing of the torch element between the two characters of Nancy and Kristen in this movie that once again is another comparison to requel films in the modern day. You thought I was done with the requel conversation? Absolutely not. It is uncanny how similar that those movies are to Dream Warriors from back in the day. Like seriously, this is the first requel. I'll die on that hill. Kristen also has this goofy power where she can pull people into her dreams. It results in some cool shots, like there's this one where Nancy Thompson falls into her chair and literally falls through it into a dream at one point towards the beginning of the movie. That's actually pretty cool, but it's a very goofy power that kind of doesn't work for me, even if it is a linchpin to making the story work. There's a lot of elements to Dream Warriors like that though, which we'll get to in a minute. Before Lawrence Fishburne donned those rounded sunglasses and asked Neo if he'd rather take the red or blue pill, he fought Freddy in the 80s here. And seriously, I can't say this enough, the rest of this young cast is fantastic in this movie when they're not doing some crazy goofy bullshit. It's a breath of fresh air to watch this movie again though, compared to some of the other Nightmare sequels where the characters make you want to throw up a little bit because they're so bland. It's like eating oatmeal without cutting up some fruit or something to put into it. I need some fruit in my oatmeal, Nightmare. Some new Freddy lore drops in this third entry in the form of this mysterious nun named Sister Mary. She tells Dr. Gordon, no, not that doctor, this doctor, that Freddy Krueger is the bastard child of 100 maniacs who SA'd a nurse locked in the wing of the hospital with them. This is a wildly upsetting backstory for Fred Krueger that I don't think has aged all that well. There's just a simple lack of conviction here. People aren't born evil, they're raised evil. I think it just would have made a little more sense if Freddy Krueger's parents were abusive, neglective, something along those lines, opposed to just blaming his conception. I've just never been crazy about this element to Freddy Krueger. I think it kind of sucks. But wait, there's a twist! Sister Mary was actually the ghost of Amanda Krueger, Freddy Krueger's mom, the entire time. This is actually kind of interesting to me. I mean, like, Freddy Krueger's mom wanted to stop him because she saw how evil her son had become. I mean, like, that's cool, but once again, I'm not crazy about this backstory. If you don't gotta put that in your story, you don't have to. The outrageous kills in this one make for some of the most iconic moments from the entire franchise. Our first big kill of the movie is Freddy Krueger using Phil like a marionette puppet and like walking him off of a balcony. That's brutal, man. And I would simply be failing at my job job if I didn't mention the most iconic Freddy Krueger kill of all time with Jennifer and the TV. This sequence also features the best Freddy Krueger one-liner of all time. That's the one that like everybody knows, of course, but my personal favorite comes in the next movie. How's this for a wet dream? The biggest thing I'm not crazy about with Dream Warriors, though, is when the kids all have superpowers in the third act. The worst thing about it is these superpowers kinda suck. While I love Kincaid's character to death for having all these goofy lines throughout this film, he's just a great comedic relief. His power in the dreams is he can just kind of like bend metal a little bit. Another one of the characters can do like backflips, and then Will turns into a fucking wizard at one point, but still dies. He's got this goofy looking Merlin robe on, and then like immediately dies from Freddy Krueger's hand after that. He's definitely not getting the part in Doctor Strange 3. The goofiness just overflows in this third act. Another good example is that Freddy Krueger shows up in the form of Donald Thompson, Nancy Thompson's father, played by John Saxon. You might remember him from the first movie. And that's how they initiate the final fight between our final girls and Freddy Krueger. It's just super lame for how good the front half of this movie is. It does not finish strong, in my opinion. Don't even get me started on the skeleton fight either. Even though those things really bug me about this movie, this is one of the only Nightmare on Elm Street sequels where the characters are somewhat decent. So for that, it shoots it towards the top of my list in my Nightmare rankings. But now we're gonna take the Freddy bus from Elm Street all the way over to Miles County to talk a little bit about Terrifier 2. The opening scene of Terrifier 2 is an instant hook for me. Seeing Art finish his murder spree from the original movie only to do his laundry next is bizarre. This scene oddly humanizes Art, showing that he too has to do the mundane just like the rest of us. The little pale girl is introduced in this scene by literally shitting her skirt, and I still think that's one of the funniest choices ever made in a slasher film. The maybe ghost of Emily Crane here, though, is a very interesting piece to the Terrifier puzzle, considering that she was mentioned in the first Terrifier and we actually get to see her here in the second one. You might have also caught that there was a news article in Sienna's father's sketchbook talking about her death. I have an absolutely wild theory about her character and how it relates to Art's origin that is yet to be revealed. You can check that out like up in this video if it pops up. Sometimes it doesn't, and then people leave me comments, but I promise you I'm gonna make it pop up like right here. Speaking of the puzzle pieces not all being in place, that's a big criticism of Terrifier 2. People don't like that a lot has gone unexplained. This is all clearly being done on purpose though, as you'll learn in the director's commentary from Damien Leone. The entire Terrifier franchise is going to be one big story with explanations coming throughout. I also don't think there would be as much intrigue in this franchise if things weren't left mysterious. This is one big mystery of a franchise that is slowly unfolding before us. You might be frustrated by not having all the answers right now, but they're coming in Terrifier 3 and Terrifier 4 that Damien Leone has promised, so just be patient, my little friends. This is a strong positive for Terrifier 2 in my opinion, because there's so much intrigue. You can go back and watch these movies 100 times and catch things you might have missed beforehand. This does nothing but add to the rewatchability of this movie for me, and I love it. David Howard Thornton's performance here is enthralling and even better than his previous outing as the sadistic clown. I love the scene where he's passing out candy to all the kids in the severed head of Allie's mom, and then he bats the one kid's hand and he's like, 1! That or the scene where he's trying to pay for the horn at the costume shop, just like 10 out of 10 moments. I love it. I hope we get more Art the Clown shenanigans in T3. The most integral new addition to Terrifier 2 is Lauren Levera as Sienna Shaw. Giving Art the Clown a worthy adversary to fight against here was such a necessary addition to this movie, something we didn't quite have in Terrifier 1. The character arc she goes through here not only shows maturity in Damien's writing, but also gives us someone to root for who isn't a psycho murder clown. Lauren Levera's performance here is fantastic, and she's slowly becoming my favorite final girl of all time. I'm sorry, Scream fans, but when was the last time that Sidney Prescott literally chopped the head off of a ghost face? I don't know what to tell you. Elliot Fulham plays Jonathan, Sienna's younger brother, who's obsessed with serial killers. Something tells me that Jonathan's obsession with serial killers is going to diminish in the threequel, considering that the end of this movie shows Art the Clown nibbling on his fingies. Art's stomach was making the rumblies that only fingers could satisfy.
I was hungry, and well, you know, when you crave hands, that's...
Why on earth would you do that?
I was hungry for hands. Give me a break.
Elliot and his family run the YouTube page Little Punk People, where he interviews metal icons and posts his own music. Dude's insanely talented, and I absolutely love his song, I'm So Happy. Go check it out. Another big criticism of Terrifier 2 is that it's too long, but in my opinion, if it wasn't 2 hours and 20 plus minutes, I don't think it would have had the impact that it did. Mike Flanagan was even raving about this movie, calling it the mega slasher. That's some high praise from one of the modern day masters of horror. Now, while the mystery and intrigue of the Terrifier franchise is the biggest thing that has me coming back, for most people, it's probably the kills. The kills are gnarly all around and my personal favorite from any slasher movie out there. Nothing tops Damien and Co's effects. The bedroom kill alone is something that horror fans will be talking about for years to come, due to its length and visceral close-ups. From the eye slit to the bleach and salt bath, to her going barely alive, this is the greatest kill in slasher history for a character who simply did not deserve it. God, this movie is mean. Poor Allie, dude. Rocking a banging score, some freaky deaths, an awesome iconic killer, an amazing badass final girl, everything you could possibly want in a slasher is right here in front of you. So getting to the comparison, let's see how both of these movies did. Why am I comparing these movies? Well, Damien Leone himself has said that Dream Warriors was a massive inspiration for Terrifier 2. You see that inspiration a lot in Terrifier 2, but especially in the Clown Cafe dream sequence, which literally is a Freddy Krueger dream sequence. Sienna having supernatural powers just like Kristen in Dream Warriors is another good example too. Speaking of the supernatural, we have two killers in this movie that totally defy physics and logic. Freddy Krueger can kill you in your dreams, Art the Clown just like can't die. Dude withstands a lot in this movie and just keeps going. While I love the kill sequences in Dream Warriors, I think Terrifier 2 easily has some better kills within it. There's never a part of Terrifier 2 where I'm bored either. Like, even though it's 2 hours and 20 plus minutes, I'm never bored at any point of this. It flies every time I put this one on. The characters are about equal in both of these movies, but at least Sienna doesn't transform into a wizard in the third act. For me personally, Terrifier 2 takes this dub easily. While I'm excited for Terrifier 3, I don't think anything's ever going to top Terrifier 2. Apologies to the Terrifier crew if you guys are watching this, but Terrifier 2 is just something special. It is true lightning in a bottle. It's one of those rare 10 out of 10s in my opinion, and my current favorite horror film of the 2020s. Dream Warriors is definitely up there when it comes to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but I don't even think it's the best sequel. That goes to New Nightmare in my opinion. Terrifier 2 is a rare sequel that passes up its predecessor big time. That can't go without recognition. For me personally, Terrifier 2 takes this one by a landslide, but it is of course up to the community to decide who the real victor is. When this video gets posted, channel members and Patreon supporters will be able to vote for the real winner, which will be announced in next week's video. Go vote now by clicking on that Patreon link in the description below, or sign up to be a channel member today. What do you guys think about these movies though? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new Versus video. Don't forget to like it and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Please consider supporting me on Patreon as well by clicking on the link in the description below, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.